Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. Now, today I wanted to talk about Accenture. And Accenture is a consulting firm and they're a public company. And I wanted to talk about them because they operate in a lot of the similar spaces to the Big Four accounting firms, except for they don't offer really that many accounting and tax services, but they offer consulting services the Big Four accounting firms offer. And they recently released revenues of $50.5 billion for the 12 months ended 2021, August 31st. So they have a weird fiscal year similar to the Big Four accounting firms. And this represents a significant increase in revenues for them. And they have way more employees than the Big Four accounting firms. They have 624,000 employees across the world. They operate in 120 countries, similar to the Big Four accounting firms. But it's obviously a lot more people. And I was reading some articles about it, and people were saying about how they have to, in order for them to make more revenue, they have to have more billable hours, similar to the Big Four accounting firms. So they'll run into the same thing. And some more interesting information is that they have a little fact sheet. In the fact sheet, they say that they're in the S&P 100 index. So that means like they're one of the 100 largest public companies. And it just goes to show you where the Big Four accounting firms would be if they were on these as well. They would be in that same realm as well. So you see how much money the Big Four accounting firms and also the big consulting firms like Accenture make in a given year. And another thing this fact sheet did is it broke out basically the lines of service that Accenture operates in. It's communications, media, and technology is one, financial services is another one, health and public service is another one, products is another one, and lastly is resources. And products is consumer goods, retail, and travel services. And then resources are chemicals, natural resources, energy, and utilities. And health and public service is health and public service is governments. And one of the largest growth areas for them was health and public service. And the growth in that was 16%. And the next fastest growing sector was communications, media, and technology, which we would expect for technology. And then the third fastest growing was financial services. So I think this is something to be learned from that as well, is that, as I've said in the previous podcast with regards to Big Four accounting firms, is I think government spending is going to increase the amount of money that consulting firms and the Big Four accounting firms are going to make. I mean, the majority of Big Four accounting firms' work is government regulated, either accounting work or tax work. And the Big Four accounting firms is trying to help grow that area as well with ESG and the DEI stuff. So I think we see that consistently with Accenture as well, that they're getting the growth from there. The one shocking thing too is that for Accenture is that they had 12% revenue growth in North America. And I didn't see that necessarily big growth in the Big Four accounting firms in North America. Necessarily, it was a lot more Europe and Middle East for the Big Four accounting firms where the growth was coming from. But it's just very interesting that, that we see this consistent public service growth between the Big Four accounting firms and the consulting firms. And this was a good year for Accenture, but we could have predicted that through the Big Four accounting firms, because the Big Four accounting firms had really good growth this year as well. But Accenture had a really, really good growth year. And I think the Accenture is going to have probably, if everything keeps going the way it's going, this next year is going to be having a way better year than the Big Four accounting firms, just because they can take advantage of consulting services that the Big Four accounting firms can't necessarily do because of conflicts of interest. So that's definitely one advantage that the Accenture and other consulting firms will have. But I thought that was something interesting to cover as people, as you think of choices of what to do with your career, and you might be considering other firms, and, one of these consulting firms, if you're in advisory in the Big Four accounting firms, or thinking of going to advisory, this is just another route that you can go, and these professional service firms, I think, are more sought after, especially as governments spend more money, but also as big companies take more and more market share of all business around the world, because as businesses get bigger, they need more consulting services and more governmental regulated services they need, or they need to meet those government regulations. They need assistance. So it'll just increase the amount of revenue that consulting firms and the big four accounting firms will make. But that's the update for today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast to get future updates and check the show notes for helpful links. Thanks for listening.